G'day guys, and welcome to another episode of The Casual Athlete, where we talk all things NRL. Today we'll be going through our predictions for the 2021 season, and with me is my partner in crime, as always, Daniel Long. Longy, how are you, mate?
Miles, I am absolutely excellent. Just frothing for some footy, and Thursday couldn't come soon enough. So everyone, the format for today is that we're going to be giving you our predictions for the NRL 2021 ladder. Essentially, we'll be working through from 16 to 1, and if you want to see the correct ladder positions, you'll look to the left with Longy's list, whereas Miles' list will appear on the right. Let's kick things off without further ado. Miles, who do you have in number 16?
Longy, mate, I've got the Dragons finishing up in 16th spot. McInnes being out for the season is going to be a big loss, so to me, I just don't think they have the cattle to go with many of the top teams this year, so 16th spot for me.
Fair call. I've actually got the Dragons in 16 as well, Miles. They were a strange team last year, but they've only really downgraded this year. So they haven't re-signed McInnes, who embodies the club. They lost James Graham as well, on top of Frizzell too. And I watched that Charity Shield game against South Sydney, and they conceded 6 tries in the first half, which I think is pretty indicative of sort of the soft underbelly they'll show this year. So I've got them in 16 as well. Moving to 15, who have you got?
Not much better than they did last year. I've got the Brisbane Broncos. Kevy Walters, being new appointed coach, is obviously up against it. Young side as well. I think they lost a bit of experience, and they would have gained a lot from last year as well. I think defence has got to be something that Kevy would have looked at, considering they came 16th in that last year. But I just think this young side isn't ready to take the big leap yet, so 15th.
I don't know if I agree with that. I don't mind the Broncos to improve this year. I mean, everyone talks about them having a rubbish team, but clubs keep making offers for their rookies, so I've got them a bit higher than that. In 15, I've actually got the Sharks, and I liked the Sharks last year. I thought they had a nice side, but I look at them this year and I don't understand what they're going for. I mean, Aiden Tolman's been a great player over the years, but I don't know why you choose to bring him off the bench over someone like Andrew Fafita. Outside of that, they'll be without Sean Johnson for the early part of the year too, so I couldn't really see them doing well, and I won't be surprised if they open with a 2-5 record or something even worse than that.
Definitely. Not going to be one of the top sides this year. That's why I have them in 14th. Like you said, Longy just really lacking in a bit of offensive firepower in Johnson for the first couple of rounds, as you said. Morris is under an extreme amount of pressure from the club, and I just think they're running on fumes after winning that premiership in 2016.
That's a fair call. In 14, I've got the Bulldogs instead. So they've added some quality, and Kotrick, Flanagan, and Waddell, some really young guys there too. But I just look at their spine, and it's littered with a lot of question marks. So after finishing with the second worst attacking record last year, again, I'm surprised with what they're doing here. They've benched for Tal Mariner, who was one of their best attacking players in 2020. Overall, I think they're building a decent roster, but this won't be the year for them for me. Jumping to 13th spot, who have you got in that position, Miles?
I kind of agree with you. However, I've got the Dogs a little bit ahead of 14th spot, so I've got them in 13th. I really think this is a big setup year for them. The signings of Kotrick and Allen are good as a start, but I think they'll be waiting on Burton coming next year. Hopefully he can provide the goods for them. And big year for Jake Averillo. If he can really lock down that 6th spot, it's going to make a few headaches next year, but I really like the way that they're trending. I just don't think that they're going to be top 8 material.
Averillo's got a ton of talent. He looks like a good player. So 13, I've got the Cowboys instead. And again, on paper, it looks like a really talented roster there. I just don't know how well they're going to play together in regards to these positional changes. You've got Holmes on the wing, you've got Drinkwater to fullback, Hamaso's moved to centre. It's going to be interesting to watch, but I'm not confident that they'll do better than 13th there. Moving up to 12th place, who have you got in that position, Miles?
Longy, mate, I've got the Tigers in 12th spot at the moment. They've lost a lot of experience in the former club legend Benji Marshall. They did bring in Tamo, though. I think that he has proven himself to be a bit of a winner. He won a premiership with the Cowboys, took Penrith to a grand final as well. So hopefully he can provide a bit of a similar effect there for the Tigers. But the loss of Harry Grant is going to be too much for them to overcome. He was, without a doubt, their best player last year, and his production is going to be a bit hard to replace.
Huge loss. Harry Grant's going to be a big part of what Melbourne does this year too. I've taken the Broncos in number 12. I think we'll see a big improvement from the Broncos this year. I think Kevy's going to do something a little bit differently to how they approached it last year, and that he's going to bring a lot of the history of the Broncos into the team. So he'll be bringing sort of club legends around, and I think because of that, we're going to see a lot of pride in their defence. And if they had Tony Staggs from round one, I might even put them higher than this. So I think they'll do a lot better this year. Moving up to 11th place, where we really start to compete for that top 8 there. Who have you got in this position, Miles?
Yeah, Longy, I've got the Manly Sea Eagles. The excitement of Foran and Cherry Evans being back together after some time is something for fans to be excited about. But it doesn't quite mean for me that they're going to make the top 8. I think their performance really hinges on the back of Tommy Turbo's fitness, as it did last year. They've got a rough start to the season. They've got to play the Rabbitohs, Panthers and Roosters in the first 4 games. So they're going to be up against it. If they can squeak out of there with a 2-2 record, they might go the next level, but I couldn't put them any higher than 11th.
So in 11th place, I have the Titans. This is an explosive roster. I'd love to see them do better. But adding Tino, Fafita, SASA, it's going to transform the way they're able to attack, especially through the middle. And while they've shown glimpses, there are still some question marks around the spine there, especially in the bigger games too.
In 10th spot, why don't you let me know who you've got?
Yeah, so 10th place, I actually have your Tigers there. I think they've sort of been on that precipice of making the 8 for quite a while now, and yeah, I really do like this side on paper. Watching the trials, Laurie showed a lot of form early on. He looks explosive, he looks like a guy who can find the try line. And on top of that, it's very difficult to root against guys like Nofaluma, who they've got on the roster as well. In terms of recruitment, they've shuffled the deck a bit this offseason. They released Aloye, Eisenhuth and Lawrence, who were quite good for them for a long time. And they've picked up Tamau, Offengawi and a few younger prospects there, so maybe a slight upgrade in experience, but overall I think Aloye in particular was a big loss. Overall I think they're going to be a lot of fun to watch, but I just can't see Luke Brooks breaking his 8 season finals drought this year. How about you? Who have you got in 10th place?
I've got their 2005 opponents from the grand final, the North Queensland Cowboys. Obviously, as we know, Todd Payton back up there in North Queensland. I think the fans will be hoping that he can turn things around. I think a lot of their season, though, really relies on Michael Morgan. Over the last 3 seasons, he's just been non-existent on the field, whether it be through injury or not being able to match the level of his 2017 form that took him all the way to the grand final. But I really think they need to get their combinations right, as you said. Valentine Holmes to the wing, Drinkwater at fullback. I think they need to find out a method that's going to work and stick to it.
That's a fair call. So pretty close to the finals there, and a bit of an improvement from last year, but not quite all the way. If we jump to the 9th spot there, which is the ultimate heartbreaker, who have you got just missing the finals this year?
Yeah, that 9th spot, it's always one that really intrigues fans, and everyone around will be hinging on this team to hopefully make the finals, but I just kept them out of there. The New Zealand Warriors in 9th. They've made some great acquisitions in the form of Adam Fanua-Blake, and guys like Ben Murdoch-Masila and Ewan Aitken as well have really bolstered that team together. I just see them losing those really tight games, kind of similar to how the Tigers were a couple of years back. They just couldn't really win in the clutch, and I just think this side will be a little inexperienced for this year to make it into the finals, but they'll give it one hell of a year. They always put on a show, the Warriors, so 9th spot for me. How about yourself?
I've taken the Knights in 9th spot instead. So I've been feeling like this Knights side was on the edge of greatness for quite a while now, but they've really struggled to take that step. They've got an awesome forward pack, they've got an experienced spine and some potency in the outside backs, but I just can't see them squeezing into the 8. I mean, they've had a good side for quite a while now and sort of haven't done too much with it. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Hopefully Frizzell makes a difference for them, but I've got them in the 9th spot.
Definitely, I think he will make a difference, and we'll get to that a bit later. So now, Longy, mate, we get into the nitty-gritty stuff. The top 8 for this season. Are you excited?
Yeah, this is where it gets exciting. This is where you want your team to be, and if your team's already been named, you're probably not listening at this point. So
in that 8th spot, who have you got squeaking in there?
Yeah, I've taken the Warriors to sneak through. I think they'll win just enough close games, unlike what you've said in your preview there. I just look at their team, and they've got a lot of the ingredients required to do well in the regular season. They've added Adam Fanua-Blake to an already potent forward pack there too. I like the look of the back five. They're really stacked with powerful ball runners, RTS, Mamalo, Aitken, Fusatua, Hiku. And I think they'll get themselves into good field position and score just enough tries to make it through to the finals. How about you?
I've gone for a roster that made plenty of moves in the off-season. The Gold Coast Titans. I just think this side, with the players that they've assembled, is just too good to leave out of the top 8. Yes, it's going to be their first year together, but I think on the back of having a brilliant 2020 season, AJ Brimson could really be a bit of a smoky for Dally M, in my opinion. Guys like Fafita, Tino, Fogarty's really matured a bit as well, so I see them taking that next step. They came 9th last year. Why can't they be 8th this year?
I'd like to see it. How about 7th position? Who have you got in 7?
Where you doubt, I believe. I've got the Knights coming 7th, mate. It's going to be tough without Ponga to start the season, but Pearce being re-signed recently for a year is good for them, so they've locked him down so he can focus on this year, and I think that they can make another finals run. They can't be as cursed as they was at the 9 position this year as they were last year. It's just not possible. I think Brayley has a good season there if he can stay fit, and I think they finish in 7th spot and make the finals.
Yeah. No, it could happen. I'm not ruling it out. I've taken the Raiders to actually slide back a bit into 7th position here, and it's a bit of an unpopular pick, but I just look at their team. It's quite similar to last year. They've lost Kotrick and Bateman, who are big losses on the offensive side. They've got a great spine, and they could do better than this, but I just think the window is passing for them to win a premiership. So I've got them in 7th position. Hopefully they do better than that.
Wow, a big slide from the Raiders, eh? Yeah. Ricky Stewart, I think though he may have established himself a bit of a fortress down there, but who knows? Anything's possible in the NRL. So what have you got going on for the 6th position this year?
The team I've taken in 6th here is a team that you have disgracefully insulted with your prediction. Honestly, I thought you were joking when you had them down, outside of the top 8 there. I've taken the Manly Seagulls in 6th position here, and I think they could do even better than this. So I look at this team, and let's just go into the past here. Let's do a bit of time traveling for our segment here. Okay. So Foran and Daly Cherry Evans were the starting halves for Manly from 2011 to 2015. Manly were a top 4 side in 4 out of 5 of those seasons, so I think we've seen that this halves pairing can be lethal. If Tommy Turbo can stay fit and they can fill the gap in hooker, Manly is going to be a genuine title threat this year.
Jeez, I think you're living in the past a little bit there, Dan. But anything's possible. Again,
I can be accused of it. I mean, I've got Fafita as one of my favourite props too. So
hey, Fafita was electric.
A bit of an old timer in that way.
In 2015.
How about you? 6th position. What do you got?
Sixth position. I had to go with Parramatta. The Eels have just really not made any headway in the off season. I just think that the loss of Michael Jennings is a bit of potency. Yes, they've replaced him with Tom Opacek, but I have them running a bit more through Dylan Brown this season, and I want to see how that goes. Hopefully he gets his hands on the ball a bit more, because a guy with his footwork and speed needs a bit of room, and hopefully he can take a bit of pressure off Moses, and that unlocks him as well. But due to the lack of acquisition to their roster and improvement, I couldn't put him any higher than 6.
Understandable. I mean, I've got them higher than that, but we'll see what happens. How about 5th position? What are you running there?
5th position, bit of an interesting one. They haven't missed the top 4 in a couple of years now, but I've got the Roosters. Missing out on the top 4. I think this roster's getting a bit old. Guys like Maria Hargraves, Friend, Cordner's going to be out for half the season. They're moving into their 30s now, and it's one of those things where they've had previous success. So how hungry are they? I question how hungry they are. Keary moving to half is a good move for me. In a 7 jersey, I think he can really control the game and lead them into the finals. I just don't see them competing for a title again, even though they have Teddy, who's the best fullback in the game by by a mile.
Doubt the Roosters at your own peril there, Miles. I've got the Storm in 5th instead, so another great team sliding a bit from the grace that they've enjoyed over the last decade. So the Storm have admittedly found the best possible replacement for Cameron Smith in Harry Grant. Saying that, they'll be without Big Tino, and they enter the year with a few injuries to Grant and Finucane as well. I look at Cameron Smith and his contribution last year. He produced 17 try assists in 16 games, which is incredible from hooker. I think we could be underestimating the impact that Smith had with this roster and the impact that his absence is going to have too. So I'm really tempering expectations for them this year, and I think 5th is a good position for the Storm.
Yeah, you wouldn't be accused of thinking that maybe they could slide a bit further, but I've got them at 4th. They did all right after they lost Cronk. They did all right after they lost Slater. I'm backing them to do all right without Smith, even though he is, without doubt, arguably one of the best players in NRL history. And this year will be the first time in 19 seasons that they suit up without him on the roster. I back him. You got to back Bellamy and Munster and the emergence of Pappenhausen. These guys have just really taken to this team and catapulted it to such lofty standards. Like, they just keep turning up every year, and every year we think, oh, this is the year that they're going to miss the finals. This is the year they're not going to do anything. But I can't put them outside my top 4 after I rated them so poorly last year. I think the Premiers will make the top 4.
I'll tell you what, if they can do that and sort of go deep into the finals again and continue to do so, then Craig Bellamy's status as a coach is just massively elevated. I mean, to do it without Smith, I don't know if they can, but if they can, then yeah, it's a massive legacy booster for Bellamy. I've taken the Eels in 4th instead, and I think the Eels will finish 4th and they'll make the grand final from 4th position as well. So I look at the roster, and yes, it's a very similar side to last year, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Guys like Dylan Brown and Reid Mahoney are really coming along in the spine. They're really young guys. Everyone forgets that they're in their early 20s. And Brown really showed a lot last year. He showed his running game in sort of spades there, and I think we're going to see a big leap from him again this year as well. I'm expecting it to be his breakout year, and yeah, I think Parramatta are going to go to the grand final. Whether they can win that game is up in the air, but yeah, they're my grand final pick from 4th place.
I think wishful thinking there, wishful thinking. But hey, I think they've got the side to do it. It's about whether they turn up or not. Who have you got at 3rd?
3rd position. This one isn't too surprising. I've taken a team that only lost 1 game last year in the Penrith Panthers. Their side remains very similar to that roster. Josh Mansour was a big loss. He was top 5 last year in runs, run meters, post-contact meters, and line breaks, which is pretty incredible for one player there on the edge for the Panthers. Luckily, they've taken up Charlie Staines as a replacement there, and he looks like a gun in attack, but I don't know if he's going to replace those early set sort of runs. So I can see them being a little bit less consistent this year, but I think they would have learned a lot from that grand final last year, and I think they'll be in the grand final too against Parramatta. So a bit of a battle of the West there to finish off the season.
Yeah, 18 games in a row is definitely hard to repeat. I've gone for the Raiders, actually, that you have put down at 7th. This Raiders side has been a win-now side for 3 years now. I know they lost John Bateman, and you love John Bateman, but I think Corey Harawira-Naera and Hudson Young are pretty decent replacements. I'd take them any day of the week. And this forward pack is just... it's got such depth to it. Their big problem last year was injuries. Hopefully they don't have that cloud over them again this year, but... I think George Williams is a guy to watch and should improve on his solid rookie year last year and really lead this team into a top 4 spot.
Yeah, I mean, it could happen. They're a great defensive side, and that could take them to a good position. Jumping into the top 2, and this is where it gets real. I've taken the Roosters in 2nd spot. I think everyone across the board, including yourself with your disgusting 5th selection there, is underestimating how important Victor Radley was and is to this team. Radley was out for most of last year, and it put a ton of pressure on the halves, and that's where we saw sort of Flanagan get exposed a bit last year, and a lot of pressure on Keary as well throughout the season too. I think this year Radley's fully reloaded, so he's coming back. His ball play through the middle is going to be super important, and there are huge wraps on Lachlan Lamb too. So I'm expecting the Roosters to sort of put on a show this year, and they'll be the best attacking team in the comp, but they will lose players through Origin a bit. And so, yeah, like you said, they've got some age. They'll rest guys every now and then. So I don't think they'll take the minor premiership, but I think they'll do really well.
I don't doubt their pedigree as a club. I think they're a phenomenal club, but I just think that side needs a jolt of youth, if you ask me. I've gone with Penrith at 2. I can't really get past what they did last year. They were phenomenal. I think they're battle-hardened after last year's grand final. It was a tough loss to take, and they would have been used to losing as well. They only lost 2 games last year, so they did lose Tamo and Mansour, as you said. I think Cleary and Yeo as co-captains is a good choice for them. Cleary can really steer the side around, and Yeo leads by example. So I think they're prepped again for another big finals run.
Yeah, wouldn't be surprised at all to see them in that position. Now, jumping into number 1, the big spot, the minor premiership, who are you taking in this spot, Miles?
Well, the one that neither of us have spoken about yet, and it's the South Sydney Rabbitohs. What can you say about this team? I think they're really stacked from 1 to 13 at this point. Great back line. Impressive spine. I think it's one of the best spines in the competition with Walker, Cook, Latrell and Reynolds. Hopefully Latrell really gets back to that premier form that saw him really take the comp by storm. If he does that, then I think this team is going to go the next level after being knocked back in 3 previous preliminary finals. It all hangs on Latrell for me, and if he can rise to it, then I think they're going all the way. I've got him winning the comp. Yeah,
I've taken them number 1 as well. Not winning the comp. I don't know about them in the finals, but we actually did rave about the Bunnies a couple of days ago in our season preview as well. And I'll throw a link to that in the description here too. So if you want to see 4.5 minutes of us loving the Rabbitohs, you can click onto that. In terms of sort of why I've got them in number 1, I think Jairo adds a lot of mobility to this Bunnies forward pack. And when I look at their team, I see a lot of similarities to the way Penrith were able to defend last year. So some very mobile, quick forwards there through the middle, who essentially allow them to scramble quite a bit and quite effectively to Penrith were the top defensive side in the comp last year, and if the Bunnies can replicate that, they'll go a long way to being a top defensive side this year. And then their attack isn't questionable. That roster, like the spine like you talked about there with Cook, Cody Walker, Adam Reynolds, Latrell Mitchell, some awesome outside backs as well. They're going to score points, so I think across the year they're quite versatile, and they'll go a long way to winning maybe 20 games this year.
Yeah, big ups. Big props on the Rabbitohs this year. Hopefully they can rise to the expectations set by both of us. I think a lot of their fans will be...
Yeah, it's not easy to live up to those expectations.
Yeah, a lot of their fans will be hoping that we're right as well, I think. So that's it from us, guys. Let us know what you think about our predictions in the comments below.
Yep, let us know. Who do you think got it right? Longy or Miles? And if you've got your own predictions and we're both off the mark, then tell us about that too. We'll see you next week.
See you guys.